Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We pre-taped this one because I'm away this week, but I'm so excited to bring in Colonel Kurtz herself. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you. And guys, we have some really exclusive information she's going to be dropping, but a big story that she did report over on her channel as well. If you guys haven't already followed Colonel Kurtz, you should. She covers a lot of stuff, a lot of the Johnny trial, etc. But she's really become a voice for Marilyn Manson. She's one of the, I think, doing the best work and really trying to get to the truth of this case. Now, I've never hid my feelings in this case. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I just haven't been as in depth and had the time to go as much as Colonel Kurtz has. To be honest, I don't really like Evan Rachel Wood either in some of the things I've said. I've been really stuck more in the middle is how I've just been fair in covering it. But Colonel Kurtz is definitely pro Marilyn Manson. And if you want to learn more of that side, you absolutely should go over to her channel. And I should tell you, Colonel Kurtz, I wasn't trying to hide it, but when we did meet with Johnny is obviously very good friends with Marilyn. And when we were talking about stuff, privately, you did come up in conversation of his sort of how impressive he was with your work in defending his friend. So kudos to you. You got that from the man himself. And I look, regardless of what people think about Johnny, he's just a loyal, good guy. I'm glad he was supporting his buddy, and I'm sure that makes you feel good to know that they're watching you. I assume Marilyn's probably watching you too. No.
I think he sees some of my work. We'll put it that way.
I would think so. You're his biggest voice.
Now, I bet he'll be watching this.
Yeah. Well, show. To be fair, I like to be fully transparent with you guys. I'm not for or against. I'm really waiting to see how this all shells out, just because I haven't done as much homework. But I know Colonel Kurtz has. From her side of things, and I wanted to bring this in because this was an interesting development in the case. Rose McGowan, who was previously supported Evan Rachel Wood and the accusers of Marilyn, has now come forward and said that she is feeling bullied by Evan Rachel Wood, their supporters, or unclear. I want to have you explain this, but I thought before we even get to it, she has a clip from a Twitter Spaces that they did together. Let's just hear the clip first, Colonel Kurtz, and then you can go in and share some more thoughts. Does that work? You want to set it up?
This is a conversation between Rose and the sex trafficking victim advocate Eliza Blue. So it wasn't my interview. Just want to give credit there, but it is very interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to watch the full Twitter Spaces, Rose did tweet it out as well. Here it is: Hope and War with Rose McGowan. But here's the quick 2-minute clip where she clarifies that way we can hear from our own words.
You've stood by many, many survivors, even survivors that weren't being stood by. Do you have a position on that, or is you just kind of do whatever you think is the best?
It's really hard, I get a lot of I got a lot of people with Evan Rachel Wood, the actress Evan Rachel Wood, who had not. I'm not in any camp on that. I'm not. But I got a lot of bullying from people on her behalf. Why haven't you, talked about Marilyn Manson? Why haven't you? And all I can say is, for me, I didn't experience that, but also this person hadn't come out and named anything yet. There was nothing to support. For me, it's a case-by-case basis, and there's just so many that you kind of can't do it all. But I would say to the people out there that are supporters of people, don't bully. Don't bully. Like, I was really bullied nastily by her supporters, I would say. And for me, all I can say is, in my relationship with him, that wasn't a factor. I didn't experience that. I hate it when I see like someone defending someone and saying, well, they never did it with me, so these other people must be lying. I don't know. I was not there. I hate anybody suffering. I hate anybody hurting. But I also, I don't understand. And of course, not everybody will be telling the truth. That's another component that's extremely hard to deal with. For me, just psychologically, because I don't understand why the hell anybody would ever want to wear that mantle if it's not in fact true. I can't psychologically grasp why you would want that kind of attention. And then also because the second you do come out, everyone's like, you're lying. You're just doing it to get attention. You're like, I was already famous, dickweed. In my case, there's so many. It's a case by case, but also you have to fight your own battles too, and people that have a name, they have to fight their own also with support, I hope. And I hope that now that's gotten a lot better. But I would say almost more land on the don't bully people into doing it. The people that, like on the Britney side, they did it in a really respectful way. And that's why I responded kind of well to that.
Fascinating. I mean, yeah, good find and good point, because yeah, it's hard to not hear that as a shift, because previously she had tweeted out support. And what's very interesting, if you go and see the tweet, and you didn't know this, the tweet's now gone. I tried to search for this tweet specifically on Rose's account in itself, and the tweet is no, every press outlet that linked to it, it's dead. And if you go search for it, now we have the text here. I searched for it also. It's out. But go ahead. Yeah. I'm hear
no,
I'm
thoughts. Sorry. I was just going to say, just to be clear, people might be confused. We're saying that the tweet that Rose McGowan originally put out, where she voiced her support for the Manson accusers, this was like several years ago, right? Like, you're saying that's gone?
Yes.
Wow.
I did not know Twitter.
That. So she's removed it. Wow.
I mean, because Page Six has like the text. I went and looked for it on Twitter. I couldn't find it, and both E and Page Six linked to it, and it became a dead link. It says Rose McGowan status, and I've gone through multiple outlets. Here it is, shared again. All the links go to a dead link. So again, take that as you will, guys. But yeah, I want to go to you. Obviously, you're the guest star here, and you're the expert on this case. Do you see this as Rose turning and turning on Evan, et cetera, and potentially trying to change her mind in supporting Marilyn, who, let's be clear, right? She never accused him of any of this type of behavior, right?
She didn't. So a couple of things. I would never want to, after everything that Rose has been through in her life, put words into her mouth. But I do think, just honestly, that my impression of this is that there has been a shift in her thinking about this situation. And just to be clear, since you brought it up, what originally happened was that in early 2021, Evan Rachel Wood and a number of these other accusers, they all, against Marilyn Manson, they all came out at the same time with these statements that they posted on Instagram. And when this happened, Rose McGowan put out a statement in which she voiced very full-throated support for these women. I don't remember it verbatim. This is the statement that she's now removed.
Yeah, right here. I stand with Evan Rachel Wood and other brave women who've come forward. It takes years to recover. I send them strength in their journey to recovery. Let the truth be revealed. Let the healing begin.
Absolutely. And now, so she supported them very, very fully. Now, what happened was, after she did that, not very long after that, she was online or Twitter or something, and someone asked her, maybe Instagram, someone asked her to elaborate on her time with Manson, or to tell us if Manson ever abused her. And what she said briefly was, in response to that, was, while I did not experience this, that has no bearing on whether other women did. So my point is that back when all these allegations first came out, she very much supported these women publicly and really kind of minimized the significance of the fact that Manson hadn't abused her. Fast forward now to this last week, she does this interview, and you just played it for our audience, in which she seems, yes, to be turning. There are several things that I thought were interesting in this interview that we just listened to. First of all, she reiterates several times in various ways that Manson did not abuse her, that she didn't experience this. She also reiterates several times that she was bullied by people representing, or she was bullied by people on behalf of Evan Rachel Wood. I hear through the grapevine, have my sources, that was not just online fan support, that actually, there were people actually really associated with Evan Rachel Wood and like mutual people, and perhaps even some of the accusers themselves that were doing this bullying. So I think that, and other Me Too activists, I think, were also pressuring Rose McGowan to get on board with this. So I hear the grapevine from different sources that she was receiving a lot of pressure. And so she mentions that again and again. She says she was bullied nastily, that it was a significant bullying that she received. The other thing that's interesting to me about this is that in this conversation about Manson and Evan Rachel Wood, for the first time, we hear Rose McGowan talking about acknowledging the fact that some accusers will lie. And to me, it's significant that even though she's not coming out and she's saying, I think these accusers are lying, to now for the first time say that in the same kind of breath as you're talking about these accusations about Manson, about being bullied by these accusers or people on behalf of these accusers, it almost to me sounds like she's acknowledging that these women might be lying and that this might be a hoax. Now, again, I don't want to put words in her mouth, and I apologize if that's not what she meant. But to me, I agree with you. It seems like a turn. And I do have some exclusive information, just a bit of a scoop for you, for your audience. This is not something that hardly anybody knows about, and it's not something that, to my knowledge, has been publicly discussed. But I did say several weeks ago in a video that Esme Bianco, in a court filing several months ago associated with Esme Bianco's lawsuit against Marilyn Manson. So she's former Game of Thrones actress, former BDSM fetish model, and she's suing Manson. Anyway, a lot of her evidence leaked out. I don't know how much, but it was a ton. It was like, as I remember, it was like thousands of files or whatever. But a lot of her evidence leaked out in this court filing. There was a live link to a zip file or a zip drive that wasn't supposed to be included or made live, and it was, and it leaked. And several of us saw it. So there were several of us who read through all of this evidence that Esme Bianco has in these files, and I didn't see anything at all incriminating toward Manson, quite frankly. But one of the things that was interesting is that there was a message from Rose McGowan to Esme Bianco. There was a copy, a screenshot of a conversation between the two of them before these women came out with their allegations against Manson, or around about the time when they were, I guess, when in this message, Rose McGowan is encouraging Esme Bianco and the other women to keep going and keep pushing ahead in their fight against Manson. And I think that, again, I'm very sympathetic to Rose McGowan as to why she did this. I think that at that time, she could not conceive that these women might all be lying, that this would turn out to be this insane hoax. I think she probably, even though she hadn't had these experiences with Manson, I think she was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt or whatever. I also think, again, she was being bullied a lot. So I understand what she was saying. Here's the interesting, why she was sending Esme Bianco that message. Here's the interesting thing, though. Esme Bianco included this in her evidence. This leaked out as a part of her evidence file. So what this shows me is that Esme Bianco and these other accusers are planning to use Rose McGowan as support for them. And Esme Bianco in her civil suit, it looks to me, from the fact that was included in that file, her evidence file, it looks to me like she's going to say in court, basically, look, Rose McGowan, his ex-fiancée, she's supporting us, And so I guess what I'm trying to say to you, Andy, is I think that Rose McGowan has lately started to understand the fact that she has been played by these women and that she is being kind of used. And one more thing I want to say is, Rose McGowan, a while back, after these allegations came out against Manson, she released on her own Instagram stories, she released a screenshot of a text that she had sent to Manson. So Rose released a text that Rose had sent to Marilyn Manson, in which she warned Manson not to use their past relationship as a defense. In other words, saying, like, don't use what I said in my book. I said nice things about you in my book. Don't use that. Don't use our past relationship. Don't try to use me as a defense. I will not be used by anyone, by either side. Well, I think that what probably Rose has started to see, I have no idea for sure, but I think that probably what she started to see and to hear and to understand is that these women were using her and that they plan to use her. Esme Bianco plans to use her in her case. So I think all that's very interesting. And then the final thing that I would say, and then answer whatever questions you have, is that I do encourage people to go and look at Rose McGowan's book, Brave. She did write a memoir in the wake of the Harvey Weinstein scandal. And in this book, it's a very well-written book. She talks about all the different bad experiences that she's had with abusive men, starting with the cult that she was in and stuff with her early years, her father, things she was exposed to in the cult. Then she talks about Harvey Weinstein. She talks about Robert Rodriguez, the director, who apparently was abusive as well. I mean, and on and on and on, all the sleazy guys in Hollywood and at CAA and everything, right? Well, there's a chapter in there, one chapter about her time with Marilyn Manson. She was engaged to him for couple of years, 1 or 2 years, was with him for several years. They lived together, went on tour together, all that. She talks about him as basically the nicest guy, one of the nicest men, to paraphrase, that she had met. She said that he was a highly sensitive and kind and caring and gentle person who was very misunderstood. And it's the complete opposite of abusiveness. In fact, she said that he helped to put her together again, to patch her up emotionally after what she went through with Weinstein. And my point here is that she had such a positive experience with him, even though he was doing tons drugs, right? She said later that they broke up because he was doing too much cocaine. So he was doing a ton of drugs. He was drinking a lot. He was leading the party lifestyle. But he was not only not abusive to her, but he was, it sounds like, an absolute sweetheart. And I've talked to multiple women, other women that he's dated on my show, and they say the same thing. So I think that's interesting. And I would encourage people to go and look at the Manson chapter in the book.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also interesting because she's accused a lot of her filmmakers and people she's worked with. So easy for her to throw Marilyn in the mix, but
sure,
for someone as vocal. And some might argue, well, yeah, how do we know all the other ones that she's saying are true? But it's interesting why did she single out Marilyn then? I agree that is telling. I mean, look, there's a lot you can learn on this case by going to Colonel Kurtz. I guess the one question I've always, I think is the best thing to sort of, for people who maybe are still on the fence. My stance is more roses. Like, I wasn't there. I don't know. I just haven't done the homework like you have. So I'm not here to say anything, but I did find it very interesting. I think it's worth saying from the other side of it, because Evan has done a whole documentary. People have covered her side of things very loudly. I just feel like Marilyn has not had the same luxury. That's why I like to give Colonel Kurtz some airtime, because it's only fair that he gets his due process and gets to hear his side as well. And there was a lot of really weird, crazy stuff about this faked FBI letter, as well as all this team up of them sort of, setting a plan in motion. And I guess that's my question to people who are sort of on the fence still. How can we not trust any of these women, Colonel Kurtz? Like, there's so many women coming up against Marilyn. I mean, isn't it kind of, are we being irresponsible by not believing some of them? What is your response to critics who sort of go there with you?
Yeah, I mean, that is a completely legitimate question. And it is it's the obvious question to ask. And I totally get it. And, that question and that way of thinking would have had a lot more validity in my mind, maybe, a decade or two ago, when things were not as they are now with the media and frankly with the excesses of the Me Too movement. I support aspects of the Me Too movement. Thought Weinstein, Epstein, all those guys are monsters, whatever, right? But they're in certain ways it's gone too far, or it's caught a lot of innocent men in the net, a number of innocent men. Anyway, my point is, I think a lot of cultural conditions and conditions in the media have changed to make something like this possible. And how I would answer this just very quickly is to say several things. First of all, not all of the allegations are the same. Some of the women who get included in this group of accusers are women who have accused him, just like in certain cases, of just telling like bad jokes, offensive jokes, things like that. That's
important. It's not all the same, like, horrendous charge from each woman. I think is a good thing you're clarifying.
There are certainly several women. There are certainly enough women who are alleging horrendous things, very horrendous things. And what I would say then about them is, these are not just random women. In general, they were women who knew each other. They come from a kind of a clique of friends or a particular group that is already associated with each other in a number of ways. Also, these women, they did not come together or come out organically. They were actually recruited by Evan Rachel Wood and her co-conspirator, her girlfriend at the time, a hoaxer with a horrible reputation, named Ilma Gore, she's been involved in some other things and lies and hoaxes and stuff. But anyway, they actively recruited and went after every woman that they knew who had dated or been with Manson or associated with him in any way, trying to get these women to join them against Manson. And so, you have to ask yourself, you've got this rock star who has known and been around so many different kinds of people and women and everything. Is it really that crazy to think that you could come up with a handful that could be induced to make allegations, specifically, especially since some of them, are suing him for quite a bit of money. Now, one of the lawsuits has been tossed out, but suing him for quite a bit of money. They're getting more than 15 minutes of fame out of this. Like, some of these women have gotten, and I'm just talking about Evan Rachel Wood, but even the lesser known accusers have gotten the cover of People magazine. They've gotten write-ups in Rolling Stone. They've gotten they were all in the 2-part documentary, Phoenix Rising. They got a 2-part major documentary on HBO. And these are women who, by and large, were aspiring models, aspiring actresses. And so, to me, it's not that much of a stretch to actually think that under these situations and these conditions that you could have a number of women lying about Manson. And the other thing I'll say is that, the biggest objection that I get is, well, what about Evan Rachel Wood? Yeah, you could say that the other ones, their careers have tanked, or they don't have fame or fortune or whatever, but Evan Rachel Wood already had this stuff. What is her deal? And I know that that's complicated. I've done videos on it. People look on my channel about her motivations, but I think that we're looking at a situation that is unfortunately similar in a number of ways to Amber Heard. I'm not saying that Evan Rachel Wood is the same as Amber Heard, but I am saying that I think that there are some similar dynamics at work. I do think that there are things like personality disorders. And I would tell the audience to remember that Evan Rachel Wood has undergone a dramatic personality and image change from her early years. And that now she's really, and for the past several years, ever since she's started up with these allegations or even started hinting at them, she has been really throwing herself into this newfound role as a gender activist and getting awards for gender activism. And again, like, she went before Congress. She testified before Congress. So I'm just saying, like, she's getting a lot out of this. And I think that it's naive of people to say that it's impossible that you, under these conditions, we're talking about, this controversial, edgy rock star and all these women he was around, whatever, and you have this tiny sliver of probably the most opportunistic or the most disturbed who have been recruited to go after him. So yeah, that's how I would explain it.
Westworld got canceled, so I don't know what else she's even working on. But yeah, to say that she doesn't have a goal, there could be a goal in this for her, I think is silly. Yeah, there's a goal for all of them. But again, do your due diligence. You can do that if you want to by watching. You can watch Evan's documentary on HBO. I don't trust any HBO documentaries. They are so biased. I've seen it happen to Michael Jackson, happen to Alanis Morissette, happen to Woody Allen. It's happened to so many people where it's like, Woody Allen's another one. It's like, I don't want to defend the guy, but I know there's more complicated stuff to that story, and it's an unpopular opinion, but you can go and actually I wish they would make a really actually informed documentary with both sides, because there's, some of these things are complicated. And I still don't like Woody Allen. I'll say it for the record, just because of other issues. But my point is, like, it's all about due process for me and like what actually happened and what's the evidence and what happened. So I look forward to seeing what happens here. And if you want to learn more of Marilyn's side, make sure you go support and subscribe to Colonel Kurtz. You can get that information there. She's covering it like nobody else, as well as other great stuff over there. You can catch her. So go give her a subscribe. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Appreciate you sharing us your side and all the research you've done. Guys, if you haven't hit it already here, hit it on both channels to subscribe, hit the bell for all alerts, smash the like button, and let us know your thoughts down below. Are you Team Marilyn? Are you not a fan? Do you want me to cover more of it? I want to hear your thoughts down below. Appreciate all your feedback, and stay tuned for more content here on Popcorn Planet.
Thank you.